Hi, everyone. Ashley Mailloux, David Aragona here, taking a look at the Thursday race of the day for November 6th. We'll go to Aqueduct. It feels weird saying that, but we'll go to Aqueduct for this meet. David, a mile and a 16th here on the outer turf course. It's race number 6. It's for the 2-year-old fillies. It's the Chelsey Flower. Nice to see a little bit of a stakes race there on a Thursday. And it's a field of 9, which when you look at the morning line, there are a couple of short prices, but none as short as the number 3, Deep Learning.
Yeah, it feels good to say Aqueduct because I don't know how much more we're going to get to say Aqueduct after the next year or so. But yeah, this is a pretty nice race. A lot of nice turf stakes races towards the end of the season on this turf course in New York. And this one has drawn a pretty nice field for a listed stakes. Deep Learning, she probably is going to be the favorite. She's a horse that arguably could have run the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf given her accomplishments. But Chad Brown is going to choose this softer spot here where she probably is going to be a substantial favorite.
We will take a look at the Timeform US pace projection of the Chelsey Flower. And here, a couple of horses could be in the mix early. That includes the 2, Fitz Right, who's been pretty close, not necessarily the pace setter in either of her races, but she's been in the mix, as well as the number 7, Candy Moonshine, who I think has to go, even though the last 2, they haven't been the fastest. And you do start to wonder about some others. Can they maybe press the situation, that including the 1 and the 8?
Yeah, I don't see a ton of pace in this race, and I agree. Candy Moonshine is the one that is likely to find herself in front. That's the way that she's done it best, and I can't imagine the connections are going to want to take her speed away from her here, so she'll probably go to the front. She's getting a class test, though. We'll see how good she is and if she can take them all the way.
We will kick this off with the number 1, Getting Serious. We'll actually take a look at one of the most recent efforts. Last time out, back on October 5th, is able to break the maiden in just her second career start. And the way that she's able to do it, I think, is quite good. Obviously, there's going to be another rival once again in here, the Candy Moonshine. And how did you kind of assess her performance as well as the other horse?
Yeah, I thought all in all, both of the horses coming out of this race got very good trips. Getting Serious was able to save ground on the turn. She angled out halfway around the second turn, made that move, and you could see wears down Candy Moonshine at the end. We should note Candy Moonshine does get disqualified in that race. You could see a rival inside of her steadied late, so she was taken down for that. But Getting Serious, not involved, showed progression from start 1 to start 2, which you like to see from Shug McGahee runners. He's going right into a stakes race, and I don't love the race that she's coming out of, but it wouldn't be a surprise for this barn if she takes another step forward here.
The number 2, Fitz Right. This one for Chad Brown. He's got a couple in the field. Another one similarly to the number 1, Getting Serious, was able to put it all together in the second career start. I guess from a buyer standpoint, probably not enamored with her, but at the same time, we do know that 2-year-olds, they could obviously pop a big improvement in their following start.
Yeah, I mean, you see where she's run her first couple of starts, Monmouth and the Meadowlands. You don't think of those types of horses necessarily as stakes types, though. Actually, you probably remember that horse Bleecker Street from a few years ago that Chad started out at the Meadowlands in Monmouth, and she turned into a Grade 1 winner. So it can happen. Fitz Right, like you said, she's going to have to improve. I thought she was decidedly best last time because the runner-up in there snuck up the rail, whereas she had to go outside. But that horse came back and was no match for a tougher maiden field in New York.
Now, the number 3, Deep Learning, I'll be honest, I was a huge fan of going into the Palma and obviously wasn't really happy with the result. I thought the debut at Saratoga was very professional, did everything right, and kind of taken a little bit of a step backward in terms of the figures, but we'll look at her most recent effort where I know she goes off favorite. She takes a lot of money once again, but I think it's a good effort. I mean, she's able to gain here in the late stages. She's still beaten by 2, but I liked this performance more than I did the Natalma.
Yeah, I mean, she displayed such a turn of foot in that debut victory at Saratoga that made you think she was going to have no problem kicking down the leaders in stakes races like she's competed in her last couple of times. And she's just been a little one pace in both of those races, Ashley. It seems like she's got trouble, reaching top speed, and she's kind of leaving herself a little bit too much to do. That was certainly the case in the Natalma at Woodbine 2 back. I thought the Miss Grillo was fine. She got a good trip, was second best to ground support, but ground support did flatter that race when she was third out Del Mar in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf.
The number 4, Bella Knows, this one for Brad Cox. She's an Ohio bred, and she tried the matron last time out. Now she's going to try a new test, which is going to be the 2-turn test. She has to stretch out in distance. I thought her debut was good, but I was a little, I don't know, already judgmental based on the fig on it and the way that she won it. And then last time out, I don't think she was a match for that group. So I think now it's the next move, which is to say, hey, we're going to still try stakes competition, but let's try stretching her out.
Yeah, I just don't really know who this horse is yet. And I think Brad Cox is trying to figure that out by stretching her out in distance and seeing if that works for her. Because the debut race, Ashley, it was visually impressive in a sense, but it kind of fell into her lap because there was such a fast pace in there. It came back to her. The race was dominated by closers. She did go from last to first. I don't know how much credit I want to give her for that. And then last time out, like you said, she just didn't really appear to be as good as those matron fillies. And can't say that form is flattered out at Del Mar because the top two finishers both ran in Breeders' Cup races and were no factors.
Her stablemate will draw to her outside, the number 5 Fedoro here, an Irish bred filly, a daughter of the late Wooten Bassett, who was able to win on debut. Now, she was fourth. She was 3/4 of a length behind Deep Learning. And I think for her, in terms of the trip, obviously she was stepping up. I think she was just a little further back maybe than she preferred. And maybe that kept her away from getting a better placing against that group.
Yeah, she didn't draw quite as well as Deep Learning in that Miss Grillo. She was out in post 9. I thought that Manny Franco actually did a really good job getting her over to the rail by the time they got to the first turn. And all in all, after that, it was a pretty good trip for her. She did find herself behind horses in upper stretch, took her a little bit longer than Deep Learning to angle out into the clear. And I thought she was really finishing strongly at the end of that race. At the end of the day, Ashley, I just thought that this one had a little more upside than Deep Learning and probably would be a better price.
We will move to the number 6 in here, Tide of Time, who was able to win on debut. We'll take a look at that debut. Now, came at Laurel Park. I know some people might look at the race and sort of judge it based on that, but I think what I saw, at least, David, were fractions that weren't all that quick early on and a horse that was still able to close, which maybe poses the question, what did she face? But I honestly thought it was a very handy debut.
Yeah, as you were alluding to, I don't know what she was beating in this field, and that's a bit of a concern for me, but I agree. I like the way that she does it. She was handy every step of the way. She made a middle move down the backstretch to get into position behind the leaders and then split foes at the top of the stretch to win going away. And I like the way she kind of pricked her ear at the wire like she was waiting on the rider's cue to see if she had to do more. And Ashley, this one's got a big pedigree on the dam side. Her dam time in motion, she was aware of the Grade 1 Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup at Keeneland.
Yes, as we know, she is bred for turf and she was able to score early. We'll see if she can keep it up. And I think it's a vote of confidence for the toner barn to say, hey, you know what? We're going to go to New York with her off of that performance. So Tide of Time should offer some value in here a little bit, 9-2 on the morning line. We'll move to the 7, Candy Moonshine, who we talked about it, is at least worth talking about from a pace perspective standpoint. But I do think looking at her figures, she still fits here, David. And what's to say, that she can't get a piece if she gets an easy lead early on?
No, I mean, she hasn't gotten much respect in her prior 2 starts at Aqueduct. She probably will be a big price again as she steps up to face Stakes Company, but she's outrun her odds in each of those last 2 starts, finishing just behind Getting Serious 2 back. I don't think she ran quite as well as that foe, and she's obviously had more experience, so you wonder if there still is any upside with this filly. And it should be noted, Ashley, she's coming back just 11 days after that maiden win last time, so you do have to wonder a little bit about the quick turnaround.
And then the 8 is Devilish Grin here for Amelia Green. She took a little bit to graduate, but obviously they thought high of her. They put her in that stakes race 2 back where she finished 3rd and then more recently was able to graduate. I know it's a maiden optional claimer. She wasn't in for the tag, but I think kind of having to navigate a trip through the big field probably serves her well and kind of, gives her at least a shot here to take another step forward.
Yeah, she got the job done last time. Personally, when I watched that race, I thought that the runner-up ran a little better, who had a wide post and was wide around both turns, and Devilish Grin only beat her by a nose in there. And while she did place in a stakes 2 back, that PG Johnson at Saratoga, that race has not aged particularly well. It's not a particularly strong race compared to especially this one. So I wonder if she really stacks up against these from a class perspective.
And in the event that this is moved to the main track, there is one MTO. It's the number 9, Hidden Rose, who has the dirt win once you go through the field. You can't say that about anyone else, but obviously there is the question mark if this is moved to the main track, who stays in? It's really tough to say.
Yeah, I don't know who else would run in this race on the dirt if it did change surfaces. I don't think there's too much rain predicted in the forecast, so we'll be just fine with this field on turf. But Hidden Rose, she was visually impressive, not beating mutts at Delaware first time out.
The main body of the field for the Chelsey Flower race 6 this Thursday from Aqueduct. It's a body of 8. It's going to be interesting to see how it's played. I think Deep Learning is going to take a lot of the respect here, David, and curious to see the direction that you go in terms of the top spot, because can you make an excuse for Deep Learning? You talked about the running style, maybe wanting to see a little bit more. You haven't seen it, so you go elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm a little bit afraid of how hot these connections have been lately. If you're watching this early in the week, Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt, they won multiple races on Sunday at Aqueduct. Flavian actually won a NYRA record 7 races on Sunday. So he's coming into this Thursday card with some momentum. Maybe it's unwise to go against Deep Learning, but I just thought that Theodoro ran as well as Deep Learning last time out in the Miss Grio, and she's only making the 3rd start of her career. I thought there was more upside for this Brad Cox trainee.
Yeah, and you should get a good price. And it's funny, we talk about Flavian winning 7. Other 3 were second place finishes. So very big Sunday for Flavian. I will stick with Deep Learning. This is one of those situations where I mentioned I really like this horse going in to the Natalma, was disappointed, thought last time out was okay. I think this is the right field, but this is sort of one of the last trips to the fountain. It's not going to be a hearty return if Deep Learning wins. I think for me, a horse that we both use underneath, a little intriguing, is Tide of Time. You really don't know what you're getting, but with that being said, I think in terms of the way that the gamblers will assess Tide of Time, you should get a good price.
I would agree with that. She's a horse who has a lot of upside based on the debut. She's got the pedigree. We'll see what price she is, because I'd want a price on her based on the accomplishments of the 2 horses that I've got ranked 1st and 2nd.
Don't forget to go to the DRF website for free past performances. Let David and I know who you like in the Chelsey Flower. It's going to be 5316 for David, 3657 for me. As always, good luck.